Let's talk.
John Brown.
The Little Book of Second Mentions, The Art of Avoiding Repetition, is a fascinating new book about the power and just the general fun of the English language. It is by Juliet and Matthew Maguire. I'm delighted to say that they both join me on the line now. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Hello there.
Whereabouts do we find you today, by the way? Whereabouts are you?
We're in London, which actually we've done a couple of these interviews just now. This is the first one we've done in London, so where we live.
Right, fair enough. Very, very nice indeed too. Just tell me a little bit about why you're so eminently qualified to write the Little Book of Second Mention before we get into the nuts and bolts, as it were.
Okay, so many years ago, I started out as a journalist writing for a local newspaper, moved into kind of an editing role. So have seen it kind of from both sides, from being a writer to being a sub-editor as well. So journalists try and squeeze these second mentions into their writing in quite a mischievous way sometimes. And sub-editors tend to kind of have a tendency to sort of remove them from articles.
Ah, yes, so, Attila the Sub, as we always used to call ourselves. Yes, indeed. What about yourself, Matthew? What's your background?
I don't have a writing background at all. I'm not a journalist. My background is literally I've just been married to Juliet for a really long time. So when she was studying her
blissfully happily, you've got to mention there blissfully happily. Yes.
Happily married. So she when she was studying for her journalism, obviously she heard about second mentions and she was just talking about it one day. Next day, I opened up a newspaper and I saw an octopus described as the ink-filled mollusk. And so I immediately kind of knew what that was because Juliet had been talking about it. And ever since then, it's pretty much the first thing I look at whenever I see a newspaper article. It's like, oh, what's the second mention?
Yeah,
you go straight down to
this is the thing, it's like once you see it, you can't believe. So for those who don't speak journalese or journalese, or whatever you want to put, explain exactly what a second mention is and why they're so pervasive.
Yeah, so as I said, I don't have the background. So I guess I would describe it as an attempt, either marvellous, creatively, or sometimes quite clumsily, to avoid repeating the subject of an article. So it just adds a bit of flavour, avoids repetition, avoids you looking at the same word again and again and again. So for instance, on the front of our book, it's a big banana.
Yeah.
And some of the examples of bananas over the years have been things like, you could just say the fruit, right? The yellow fruit. But we've also had the fruity pick-me-up, the energy-rich treat, the potassium-packed produce.
Oh,
that's
just been more lovely bit of alliteration there, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The potassium-packed, what is it, produce?
Produce, yeah.
Marvellous.
So that's, so it just adds a bit of fun, a bit of levity, and we think they're great.
It's a bit of creativity, isn't it? Yeah, sometimes you'll go, for example, we saw an article about a hedgehog that had 27 repetitions of the word hedgehog.
Yes.
But, we would thoroughly recommend things like, the prickly creature or the nocturnal wanderer, potentially, something like that. The insect
beloved
muncher,
denizen of the hedgerows, etc.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah, you see, used to do it. I used to creep the board. No, you see what I do understand, because you do see things like people will, especially people say, journalism is going to be taken over by AI and it's going to be written by robots or whatever. But they will just say, we're talking about, cups of coffee, and I'm going to talk about a cup of coffee, and coffee is a great thing, and coffee should be drinking every day, and coffee comes from and whether you can say stuff like almost like that potassium or that pick me up, but it adds a little flavour, isn't it? It shows a little imagination.
Yeah, it does, and also like the impact I suppose it has on you. Like we cover in the book bits about how because I follow a lot of sport, I'm really into sport, and you can this journalist can almost hint towards their feelings towards a particular person by their second mention. So if there's a beleaguered manager, for instance, who's maybe a football manager who's under a bit of pressure, it might be the prickly coach or things like that, and they're kind of hinting towards their demeanour and their personal feelings, shall we say, towards that person.
You see, now when you get into the world of sport, you really are up against it, because you rather than saying team, player, team. So we get things like fop-head mavericks, don't we? And
Yeah, exactly.
So you've got the world of sports. Politics as well must be an absolutely rich seam for this sort of second mention.
Yeah, I think we find second mentions in all sorts of articles, even quite kind of traditionally sort of staid or more boring articles about kind of, business articles and so on. Lots of politicians. We cover the pandemic as well.
Yes. That thing of which we do not speak, you mean? That's my thing, yeah. yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you can get them everywhere in all sorts of articles. We can find them.
And again, it kind of reflects the mood at the time. So we cover politicians on their way up when they're becoming like increasingly popular. They're, the popular politician or the austere diplomat or the and then on the way down after some sort of scandal, again, it's like the beleaguered or the
troubled,
or
the under pressure,
so on. So again, it kind of reflects that kind of mood of the nation and of the writers. So it really does add flavour and creativity to stories.
Is there a problem though when you're doing second mentions that you don't slip into the world of cliche, or is cliche kind of a good thing? I mean, wrestling with their demons, they never married, that sort of thing. I mean, have you got to be careful and sort of skate that banana filled, or we could say potassium pick-me-up filled, skating that thing between being clever with a second mention and, veering into cliche.
Yeah, I think so. We always try and act with sensitivity in these things. But yeah, we kind of admire the more creative ones. We actually had a really fun... there's a tweet in the book, somebody who said like, I think there was an article about Mars. And he was like, I am so bored of seeing Mars named as the red planet.
Right.
Has anybody got any better ones? And, we got like an influx of people that day kind of really creatively coming up with second mentions that, again, avoiding the cliche of just saying the red planet. And the same for snow, actually, the white stuff.
Right.
So we get a lot of journalists coming to us going like, we're approaching snowy season. I need some ideas to avoid just the standard.
Isn't there a book like 50 different names to snow or something? Shouldn't they use that as a first reference?
There's another book now, the Little Book of Second Mentions. That's overtaken the other. But so I think there is, and I think there's a will for journalists to avoid falling into those traps. And there's a whole community out there on our social media that will help if there is anybody out there going, I really need a different way of explaining something. We're there for you.
It's a sort of a support network, isn't it, for the afflicted?
But the thing, a lot of troubled souls as well. So,
that's the world of journalism. Juliet, the thing is, if you know second mentions, do you now find yourself as a till of the sub, do you find yourself you're having to get even more inventive now with your second mentions because you are, you're the author of the Book of Second Mentions, so you can't just say, I don't know, whatever you want to use for snow. You've got to come up with something. Do you feel there's more pressure on you to write something so blindingly sort of different from just saying, another second mention,
I'm not writing so much anymore these days, but
right.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking everywhere for examples of creativity wherever I can find them. We've even got second mentions for second mentions.
Okay.
So we've got things like the non-primary illusion handle, the affectionately mocking Twitter account.
Right, yes, like that,
and
yes.
also the need to find another way to say it art form, which I rather love as well.
Yes,
so.
Indeed. Yes. I mean, has social media, do you think? I mean, obviously, it's a great, like everything, it's a great tool, but careful how you use it. So presumably, do you think people get more inventive with their second mentions if they're on social media because they don't have to get past an editor, so they can go as wild and crazy in left field or inventive as they want, or obscure as they want, because you haven't got again the sub looking after you.
I think so. It has. So this is where we started out. We started out on Twitter, as it was known previously, now X, and we're also on Blue Sky as well. But yeah, we've been there for about 10 years, and that's where we've collected all these examples. And as Matthew says, it's kind of become their place where people workshop their creative examples, and they ask for help for people and for non-journalists as well. I think it really appeals to both kind of journalists as well as non-journalists. Once you see one, you kind of you spot them everywhere. You look every article you read, you will now see them. One
of the really fun things when we announced that the book was coming out, we had so many journalists in our comments talking about their favourite ones. It's quite nostalgic.
Yeah.
I suppose there's people like, I remember that really clear examples like 15 years ago when I got this one past the subs. Yeah. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there was like, a wave of nostalgia about people's favourite ones that they've done. So I think quite a big part of it is like, haha, I managed to sneak this in.
Yes.
And maybe social media dilutes some of that, but there is a real pride when you get a very creative one that gets past. One of them, for instance, somebody said, actually, I do remember, was for the moon, they called it Earth's faithful rocky friend in the sky.
Oh,
and managed to get that past the subs and into the paper, and they were particularly happy with that.
Well, anything that's better than saying, like I said, hedgehog 15 times in a row. It's got to be good. Did you sort of find, though, with this sort of thing, once you go and create this, you have to put a full stop underneath it, because otherwise people keep sending you stuff in. I mean, presumably you've got the second mentions book coming up then, because people once you open that on social media, people come in and go, I've got this one, and from the far flung corners of the empire, the odds. I mean, I can imagine sort of like Antipodean second mentions must be absolutely hysterical. There's a concept,
Yeah, exactly. Well, this book is 10 years worth of second mentions, which was it was about 9,000 tweets that we downloaded and went through. So I think it'll be a couple of years before we amass that volume again, but. In our world, there's never enough. So whenever anybody spots one, just send them over to us. It's quite easy for us to
smile. They always bring a smile to our faces. So yeah, we really do appreciate everybody who sent them to us over the years.
So just give me one that people can drop into their conversation today to figure out if they're out having a cup of coffee, having a lunch on this first day of September. If they don't want to say, I don't know, I'd like a cup of coffee. I'd like some banana with it's because in Spain, you see, when we have the menú del dia, which you have every day, it starts with the main course, which will probably be gazpacho, the soup, and then you have the main course itself, and then you have the chance of getting fruit. You either get fruit, coffee, or flan, which is caramel. So if I was to say I do fancy a banana, just rattle me off those banana mentions again, please.
Okay, we've got the curvy favourite. We've got the bendy breakfast staple, or lunchtime staple,
yes.
essentially. The elongated fruit.
Yes.
The fruity pick-me-up. The energy-rich treat. And the potassium-packed produce.
That's the one. The potassium-packed produce.
We did have somebody come to us saying the yellow trip hazard at one point as well, which we also enjoyed.
Wonderful. The book is called.
Coffee, you can have a steaming cup of brown liquid for your coffee as well. There you go.
For me, listeners will know this, but it is one of my essential food groups in the morning. If I could IV it, it's not so much a pick me up; it's all a reason for living. The book is called The Little Book of Second Mentions: The Art of Avoiding Repetition. It is by Juliet and Matthew Maguire, who we're speaking to today. If people want to, I was going to say, you can find you online, for goodness sake, but if people want to say lovely things to you, have some more second mentions, and generally say hello, where's the best place to say hello and find you to?
So we're on X at Second Mentions. We're on Blue Sky, also Second Mentions, and we have a website, secondmentions.com.
And also you can order the book by clicking on the picture, which has got the potassium-packed pick-me-up, I think, on the front cover indeed. The elongated fruit. It's called The Little Book of Second Mentions. Go onto the virtual bookstore on the TRE website, click on it, and it'll be winging its way to you. The book is called The Little Book of Second Mentions. It is by Juliet and Matthew Maguire. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you both this morning.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.